Hi boys and girls, welcome to this week's Sunday School video, May the 3rd, 2020. I'm so excited about Jesus, boys and girls, and what we have been learning. Who remembers our last lesson? Yes, Jesus heals the paralyzed man. It was so great what Jesus did for him. Do you remember what it means to be paralyzed, boys and girls? When someone is paralyzed, they cannot walk or stand on their own. We also learned that when our friends are sick, we can pray to God through our Lord Jesus Christ to heal them. That's so awesome. Jesus is a healer, boys and girls. Now it's time for this week's lesson. It's story time! Yay! This week's story is taken from the book of Jonah in our Bibles, boys and girls. God's messenger. Has your mother ever said, "Tell daddy it's time to eat," or tell your teacher, "I'll pick you up early today"? When you tell daddy or your teacher what your mother has said, you are being a messenger. Understand, boys and girls? God had special messengers called prophets. He gave them messages to give his people. Jonah was a prophet or messenger of God who lived a long time ago. One day, God told Jonah, "I want you to go to Nineveh, that great city, and tell the people that I know how disobedient they are. Tell them that even though they are not obeying me, I still love them." But God wanted Jonah to tell the people of Nineveh to obey, to stop doing bad things, and to ask God to forgive them. Jonah did not want to go to Nineveh. He did not want to give the people of Nineveh God's message because he didn't like those people. Jonah did the opposite of what God wanted him to do. God said, "Go one way," and Jonah said no and went to the other. He would not give God's message to the people of Nineveh. Jonah went down to the nearest seaport town. There he got on a ship that was going to the city of Tarshish. Tarshish. When he got on the ship, Jonah felt very sad. He knew he was not doing what was right. He knew he was not obeying God. When we disobey God, we know it too. We know that it is important to always obey. God still loved Jonah, just as he loved the people of Nineveh. He wanted Jonah to learn that disobedience gets us into trouble. He wanted him to know that the only way to be safe and happy is to obey God. So Jonah laid down to sleep. While he was asleep, God sent a terrible storm. The storm was so terrible that the sailors on the ship were afraid. The sailors in the ship had never been in such a terrible storm. They dumped their cargo, that's all the boxes and barrels and all they had, into the sea to make the ship lighter and able to float. They tried and tried to keep the ship from sinking. Up and down the ship went in the water. Hard and harder the wind blew. The storm kept getting worse, and they saw that there was nothing they could do. They called on their gods to help them, but the storm did not stop. Their God could not help them. There is only one true God, boys and girls. Maker of the heavens and the earth. Only the one true God could stop such a terrible storm, boys and girls. The sailors saw Jonah asleep. How could anyone sleep in such terrible storm? They went to Jonah. Wake up! Wake up! They said. The ship is sinking. Wake up and ask your God to help us. Jonah felt he could not ask God. He knew in his heart that the terrible storm was all his fault because he did not do what God asked. The sailors said, "Someone on this ship is causing the terrible storm." They decided to cast lots. Casting lots is like drawing straws to see who goes first in a game. Jonah picked the short straw. And the soldiers knew the storm was all Jonah's fault. "Who are you?" they asked him. "Why have you done this? Don't you know we could all drown?" "I didn't obey God," Jonah said. "I did not go and give a message to the people in Nineveh like he told me to do." The soldiers looked at each other. "Why didn't you obey?" they cried. "Look what you did." Jonah said, "Throw me into the water, and the storm will stop." The soldiers did not want to do that, but they knew nothing else would help them. They picked up Jonah and threw him over the rail of the ship and into the water. The soldiers thought for sure Jonah would drown, but they were afraid of Jonah's God, and so they obeyed. Suddenly, the storm stopped and the sea became calm. The sailors then knew that Jonah's God had sent the storm and Jonah's God had stopped the storm. They knew that Jonah's God had power to do great miracles. The sailors promised to serve the true God. God loved Jonah, and he had something else planned for him. Even in the middle of the sea, God made a very special big fish. Soon as Jonah fell into the water, the big fish opened its mouth and swallowed Jonah. Instead of drowning in the sea, Jonah found himself alive in the belly of a big fish. This was not a comfortable place to be, but at least Jonah was still alive. Sometimes we do things that we know are wrong. We know, boys and girls, God has said we are to obey our parents and be kind, and we do not do it. Then our teacher or our parents have to punish us. Does that mean they do not love us? No. That means they love us and want us to grow up knowing how to be obedient. God punished Jonah too because he wanted him to learn how important it is to obey God. And because God still loved Jonah, he kept him safe in the belly of the fish. Jonah was thrown overboard into the sea, and a great fish God made swallowed him. Jonah thought he would surely die in the fish's belly, but he did not. He was alive. What would you do if you were in a fish's belly? You'd probably do just what Jonah did. He thought about what God had asked him to do. He said to himself, "I wish I had obeyed God. I wish I would have gone to Nineveh like God told me." Jonah prayed. That is a smart thing to do when you're in trouble. No one but God could help Jonah. For 3 days and 3 nights, Jonah stayed in the fish's belly. He had lot of time to think about how important it is to obey God. God gave Jonah another chance. God heard Jonah's prayer and forgave him. He hears and forgives us when we ask him to. God caused the fish to spit Jonah out on the beach. Again, God told Jonah to go to Nineveh. This time, Jonah obeyed. When he got there, it took him 3 days to walk through the city. Jonah told the people God's message. The people listened to Jonah. They were not angry with him. They did not treat him meanly. They listened very carefully and stopped doing the mean, wicked things that did not make God happy. Even the king of Nineveh believed God. For 40 days the people prayed. God heard their prayers and forgave them and saved the people and city of Nineveh. Just as God forgave Jonah and the people in Nineveh for the bad things they did, God will forgive anyone who says he is sorry. What a wonderful God we have, boys and girls. It's quiz time. Quick quiz time. Okay, boys and girls. Your first question is, what was the name of God's messenger in this story? Go right ahead, pause your video and think of your answer. Next one. Where did God want Jonah to go? In the city of... Okay. Why should we be obedient? Question number 4. What happened to Jonah when he disobeyed God? Take your time. Last one. How many days did Jonah stay in the fish's belly? I'm sure you did great, boys and girls. Now for your activity. Make a paper boat and write on each side of the boat the 2 memory verses below. Also, study your memory verses. I share with you these 2 memory verses, boys and girls. Genesis 27, verse 8. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice according to that which I command thee. And Colossians 3, verse 20. Children, obey your parents in all things, for this is well pleasing unto the Lord. Bye, until next time.